So thank you very much, Liz, and let's kick this off. So thank you very much, by the way, everyone, for coming to it's the last session, isn't it? We're slightly the graveyard shift, but hopefully we'll keep you wide awake and raring to go for the next sort of coffee or cocktails, whatever happens after this. Right, so, good afternoon. I'm Fiona Murphy. I'm the publisher for Earth and Environmental Sciences at Wiley, as Sid said, and I was also a member of the Prepared project. So I'm here with, I guess, both my publisher hat, because I always have a publisher hat on, but also a researcher hat. So Prepared, which is it's a slightly misspelt acronym there, so that you can actually find it in Google, is the peer review for publication and accreditation of research data in the earth sciences. It was a year-long project which finished towards the end of last year, and we're now at the end of the writing up and considering next stages step. Which thing do I press? That one? Yeah. So there's a list of the kind of the various institutions and entities that were involved. As you can see, it was a mixture of stakeholders in terms of location. We had some US partners as well as UK. It was funded by JISC, which is a UK funding body which supports further and higher education institutes. We had data centres, universities, publishers, and we had a PI based at the University of Leicester, which was Jonathan Tedds. So we started with the premise that it is a generally good thing to be able to get to the data associated with published research, and the reasons I've put here, and again, anyone who's been to some of the earlier sessions around data will probably have a fairly good idea of why it's important, just for all these reasons. Lost my thing. So we started off thinking about just the publication process. If you've got a data set, and you've got a paper that you want to link with it, what are the various processes that are involved? So we started off with this basic schema, and around that we try to allocate, who does what, which processes are involved with which thing, what order do they happen in, and out of that emerged these kind of areas of interest which became our work packages. So that was workflows and then cross-referencing, which basically split out to two. Repository accreditation and the scientific peer review of data. So, this is sorry, I've just put it on my iPad, which is supposed to be good technology, and it's just leaping about all over the place like a rotten thing. So basically, our other premise was that in a world where everyone is very busy, has a lot to do, is contending with constant change, we're trying to sort of socialise, to normalise the experience for people. That's all the stakeholders involved. So that's the author, the publisher, the editor, the person who will eventually be reading the paper, the data centre manager. All these people should have as little disruption to what they're already doing as possible. So we felt it was important to have a practical sort of case study journal, and we used the Geoscience Data Journal, which was newly launched between Wiley and the Royal Meteorological Society. As you can see, it publishes data articles, so specifically each article is a short descriptor paper. And again, I think there's been a few ways of describing data papers, data notations, data descriptors. Which specifically focuses on the characteristics of the data set. So it's basically a mega super metadata. But the data set itself sits somewhere else. So there's a linking, there has to be this other relationship with this entity that sits outside the journal. So on the workflows, we looked at a number of workflows. Most of them in the earth sciences. Again, we've got these various people to send through what they do with their data set when it comes in. We looked at the various ingestion, curation and storage, the main aspects of the data centres, and for the publishers it was this submission, review, production and publication. So an example of a data workflow for a repository is here. I'm really not expecting anybody to be able to sit down, look at it and go, oh, they've missed a bit, or here's a, we don't do it like that in our place. It's more a sense of, that's the level of detail that we drilled down to, and that I think it gave us a real appreciation of the complexity of the process. As a publisher, you tend not to usually see this up close and personal. And it became really, it really brought home the fact that we had to try and adapt what we were doing to try and fit around, and also it's important to have a relationship with the people involved. So the general workflows, what I've put up here again, it's just supposed to give you a sort of general idea of the schema. Is the blue-green boxed bits are the bits that happen in the repository, and it's sort of the orangey bits which are sort of journal-related. So we actually, if you're able to see, we actually assumed the most typical case would be where there's a data set already in a data centre, and the data paper or primary research paper was being produced later, because we thought that was probably the most likely scenario at the moment. Although I think as data publication itself maybe takes off more, you could see that sequence of events becoming more fluid. So then after that, we took what we'd found, and we sort of got together and hammered out a basic schema, which I think it gives you a general sense of the kind of the crucial processes, how they relate to each other, who's responsible for what, and also to an extent the kind of the temporal order. So we felt that hopefully would enable people to take that information away and kind of map it onto whatever happens in their publication, in their community, without having to think, they label their data sets a different way or they collect it differently. It's just very generic. As you can see, I thought a note that the workflows work is actually being continued by a Research Data Alliance working group to the date. I'm going to mention that a little bit later in the talk, but so we wrote up our findings and they are being taken further. So to the cross-linking bit, you can see so we've got one journal and a couple of data centres. It's quite easy to set up a link to have a personal relationship, to understand what each other need from ourselves. You can have them on the workarounds. You can do a lot of stuff on email, and you can also you decide what you trust, what you understand, and again everyone's got a personal point of contact. Even with a few journals and a few more data centres, it very quickly becomes something that's going to be unmanageable. We hit that really hard. Actually, I think that was for me one of the kind of the big kind of eye-opening insights from the project. Is there's basically a real problem in how the whole thing scales up. So we posted the idea of a registry, a central registry that could possibly also include some aspects around kind of accreditation and relationship management, as well as the simple information traffic. At the moment, there is some discussion, I think, out there as to whether it might be something that Crossref could pick up. It might be something again that the Research Data Alliance could at least start kind of pointing towards a roadmap for. It certainly has to be discipline agnostic. I think ultimately everybody has to be carried through. Everyone has to who's in research has to have some exposure to it. I think in pragmatic terms, there's some evidence that say data centres that work around particular subjects, they're aware of each other, they may be able to communicate, and they perhaps can start agreeing on standards. And there could be sort of subject hubs, in a sense, which starting to organise organically, like the World Data System, which is observational geodata. And it might be then that as these groups become more organised, a central core hub could then be sort of construed from that. So the other types of cross-linking that we also looked at in the project were less this formal kind of external to internal bidirectional linking, but we thought they were important because they build up the awareness and discoverability of data that sits around the primary or publication of the data article, and which enrich the experience of the researcher who's doing their investigating. So, repository accreditation. Sorry. I think again, it was quite a knotty issue. Again, when we started it, we didn't realise how complex it was going to be. We were aware there were a number of accreditation systems already out there, and we always wanted to understand better how the whole landscape was working. I think what we came, with the impression I kind of really came away with after this bit of the investigation was how important trust is, and that is something that you can't kind of measure. It's a soft thing. It's indefinable. I was at a meeting recently where a scientist pointed out that when a researcher gives another researcher a data set, it's essentially a gift, and you're trusting them with your gift and with your work, and it's a small part of your soul basically, and you're not going to do that to somebody you don't trust to behave well with it. And I think researchers need to know that the restrictions and licensing or other restrictions going to be respected. They need to be given credit if something is reused, and they need that usage to be acknowledged. And publishers, we need to know if we're pointing people to data sets that they're going to be there, that it's a solid, robust link. And we need to know that if we're in effect saying you can put your data here to other potential authors and researchers, that we're doing them a service, and we're not potentially jeopardising the longevity of their data. So these are the essential characteristics that we kind of boiled the whole thing down to. As you see, there needs to be durable access, data set persistence and stability. You need to be able to find and retrieve potential data sets, and to be able to collect information about the statistics about the usage. And ideally, that's what people did, as well as what the citations were. It seems that sorry, just to plot slightly, some jet lag coming off me. But yeah, so it feels like it's not a great deal to ask, but in fact, repositories themselves, they're contending with an awful lot. No one's got too much funding, no one's got too many people doing the work, and no one's got an abundance of technical expertise. Everything's always being done as best as people can in circumstances that are available to them. So the current, so repository accreditation, as I said, it is very contentious. It doesn't have a critical mass of take-up. There are a number of people who either don't see the point of doing it, who feel they run perfectly well without it, who simply don't have the time and the resource to actually to become accredited, to get the necessary registration to be able to tick that box. And again, I think it's fine as it sits at the moment, because this hasn't really yet taken off the way that we feel it probably is going to. But again, as you need to substitute personal relationships for something that's scalable, I think people are going to have to be able to look at some kind of registry, some kind of ISO mark, and be able to know what that means. So the peer review of data, and again, a knotty issue. I think I was more prepared for this one. As anybody who works in publishing knows, reviewers are often a scarce resource that we really can't afford to try and give them more work than they're capable of or feel inclined to do. The whole system, it feels as though it's already operating at capacity. But clearly, this was something that is also very important. The quality, the control, the fact that we should always have been managing this better than we have always been managing this. We convened 2 workshops around this. We, as I said, there. We actually had a range of stakeholders, so as well as funders and publishers and repository managers. We had societies and some technical people who came and had a look, and just some almost fairly random researchers that we knew, who we felt that we could trust to give us a really kind of honest opinion. The first group, after which we wrote up some recommendations, which we then tested in the second group and then refined further. So there are three main recommendations are down there, and it is, particularly the first one, I thought, it's more of a statement of wish, of intent. It's like at some point we should be able to connect data review with data management planning. At this point, that's not a realistic ask of people. But I think as we have these kind of iterations of funding proposals, as the metadata around data collection becomes more stable and more developed, I think that's something that should become possible ultimately. And connecting the technical and scientific review with the curation, that should be something that is doable. And connecting the review of the data with the review of the article, that's pretty much a core aspect of what we were looking at. So we then, as good publishers, we put a checklist together, and the guidelines for data reviewers actually on the geoscience data list, a website. I guess what we try to do here is we put a lot of questions in. A lot of these questions, I think, are probably almost people would ask them without really being aware of it. They'd be instinctive. I think, and we're just having a look at data set as a community competent reviewer. But I think it felt important to put this list down so that people had a sense of, yes, I can do this. This is something I'm competent at. This is something that I have done, without having to sort of worry. Did I look at it closely enough? Did I spend enough time on it? Is my judgment sufficient to give this data set the official placement in the canon of knowledge? So you see, it did go on a bit, but again, the list of things, we don't have to do a separate check to see if something has the obvious mistakes, or if it's it's within the expected range or whatever. It's something which you might remind yourself at the end, did it answer all these questions? But it's not going to take you more time to do. But so we're basically, with the reviewer checklist then, I think what we felt was with the peer reviewers, that data have to be acceptable, they have to be contextuable. You have to be able to see what it is you're looking at and why you're looking at it. I've gone forward a slide, Peter, that's why. What I'm saying isn't making sense, but I'm trying to pretend I haven't. Basically, data doesn't have to be full of impact in order to be worthy of publication. It simply has to contribute to the sum of what we know. And if it's boring, if it's just it's the same old, yes, we did this experiment, and again we came up with the same result, it just lends weight to that piece of knowledge. And I think there's value in that, as much as in something that's surprising or which is paradigm shifting. So, as I said, the project itself is finished now, but the work goes on, I suppose. So I wanted to mention a couple of other initiatives. There are things that, if people are interested in, you can go and have a look at, and there are also some opportunities to get involved. There's a World Data System / Research Data Alliance Publishing Data Interest Group and Working Groups. In fact, Kirsten is a co-chair of one of these. Again, there are 4 working groups. One is workflows, there's a bibliometrics one, there's a cost recovery one, and a business models one. And they're made up of, a variety of publishers, data centre managers, informatics researchers, other parties, such as funders and non-governmental institutions. And some of these groups can be bringing out things like surveys, or wanting people to join pilot schemes, or critique reports. So, if you're interested, certainly have a look at the website, and then feel free to get in touch. There's the Publishing Academic Research Data Cost Action Submission, so known as PARD. So that's an EU there was a funding call that came out just a while ago, and it's a submission for some EU funding to build the network. And again, it's a variety of stakeholders, some based in a variety of EU countries, but also as many as possible who are external to the EU. I see my note there. The STM Association has a research data group, which is chaired by Ifke Schmidt, that some of you may know about. So again, there's a website, occasional webinars, and they're also happy to hear about sort of data and publication-related issues. Already mentioned this week, the Joint Declaration of Data Citation Principles, which is up on the Force 11 website, but which is basically a number of organisations got together because they were all looking at this issue, and they agreed on what the important principles were, and they also made them quite short, which I think is quite important. Finally, there's a special issue in the pipeline for the ALPS publication and the publishing, which is looking at this whole topic. And again, I think you're contributing to it, aren't you? You are. You're right in this minute. And that's going to be open access. It should be coming out in the autumn. So again, once it's up and running, it should be very easy to find out more. And thank you.